I think probably, if I was to fine tune this color, I would say that might be a little bit cool, but even as I start moving into the cheek now, I see that this gets warmer. It's the same value, but it gets warmer in here. So you can see there's a slight difference there between that and that. And these are the things that I'll often maybe exaggerate a little bit, because just to bring more color into this, because the color is limited. And I'll often try to search for ways to enhance the color. So this, I think of those pinkish hues as being in the cheeks. So that's often a place that I might push those warms a little bit, and then I might push this a little cooler to create more contrast. I'm also going over my shadow edge a little bit and just kind of veiling over that to break that strong line. I am, however, going to come back and adjust my shadow, because now I can see as I start doing this that I don't have enough contrast in value there between my shadow edge and my light. And so I'm bringing the value up a little bit. We can see that that's lighter, but it's also cooler than what I have. What I have right now is just still the wash of the yellow ochre on the panel. So this is a nice contrast to that cooler highlight. It's not really cool. It's more in like a gray tone, but in contrast to some of the other warm tones, it looks cool. So I'm really trying to separate light, halftone, shadow. I'm looking at each one of those as a distinctive color before I even start blending. And the next, once I've kind of got that stuff mapped out, then I can start to blend, and eventually I can start to add more color variation into this. Now we're kind of in the secondary stage here. We're really not going for super finesse just yet. I'm really just trying to see my color shapes, just as I look for my value shapes in the beginning. Now I'm looking for my color shapes. And I'm also still adjusting values as I do that. So, once I've put that in, for example, now I can come back with my little 10-0 brush, and I can blend and soften this transition between my light and my halftone. I'm noticing little differences right here in this shadow. This is a little too dark, so I'm taking some of my pale green, something similar to what I used up here, and I'm bringing that into my shadow just to break that darkness. All right, so that actually helps to bring out the nose a little bit more. This is all lighter in value and a tad cooler in hue. So when I'm looking at her eyes, and I'm looking at where this highlight is, it's not in the middle of the iris. It's more in like the upper right corner of the iris. And that, I think, as subtle of a thing as that is, it's important, because it actually helps to show where the light source is coming from. So the hairline, as it comes up against the forehead, that's always an area that I blend. I like to blend that because I like that to be a soft edge. And when we look at hair, it really is like, this is where the hairs are originating from, the forehead. So often that's wispy, and translate that into a painting, we're not going to paint those wispy hairs in, especially not on this scale. So what we can do is just soften the edge. So just like through here, I see a few places I can just go a tad lighter. Just using little brush strokes. And looking at her lips, we can sort of break that up into the two color pieces. So we have the upper lip, which is darker in value, and then the lower lip is a little bit lighter. And all of this stuff is, it's a bit hard to see. So I'm sort of going with my knowledge a little bit too, like what's not showing up in the photo, I'm trying to add. So I'm really trying to define the shape of my upper lip. So I've just laid that in with that brush stroke. And now I want to do the same thing to define the shape of my lower lip, which is lighter in value. So I'm going to create a lighter version of that mixture by adding a little bit of more white and a little bit more yellow. Essentially just bring that up one value. Because I do want to define the separation between upper and lower lip. Otherwise, it just becomes one big blob of nothing. So I need to define that difference. Now, the other thing I need to do is put my shadow in, which falls on the left side of those lips. And so now putting this in, like, I'm doing a little bit of redrawing as I do this too, like I'm redefining certain things. So like the shape that I'm putting in right now, this dark shape, is defining the edge of her lower lip. And I can see that it kind of angles up this way. But then I know that some of that darker color needs to also be on her upper lip. So I'm just going to kind of transition a little bit of that into the shape of her upper lip. So just coming back to this shadow here underneath the lower lip, if I just come up with that, I'm going to push that up into that shape a little bit to soften that edge. And this will make it look not cut out or just too harsh. You know, similar to what we did with this eye, I kind of blended the iris into the shadow. So same thing with this lip, blending that edge. And there's one other little shape that I see down in this corner that I think I'm going to add. It's a light shape in the flesh tone. It shows some differences in form. So let me actually just find the right color, which is something in that reddish, pinkish hue, something similar to what I used here in this cheek. And if you'll notice how I'm painting with these little things, these little shapes, I'm just tapping my brush strokes into the painting. Just tapping this in, because if I start pulling, I'm going to get a big smear, and I don't want a smear. I want this to be a distinctive shape. So I'm just picking up that color and I'm just tapping it right in, almost like I'm stippling with my brush strokes.